Hello, how are you? Let's start with the information. According to reports, Kurds have taken over the Revolutionary Guard base in Iran. This is according to a statement they themselves have released, and we're going to discuss this situation. We're going to talk about what's happening. This, on the other hand, is shared by an intelligence account, an open source intelligence, which is an account that even the Pentagon uses to stay informed about intelligence. Look, do you remember these last few days they were in the war room with the issue of Venezuela? And they had that account open, the open source intelligence, which is one of several very good and interesting intelligence accounts, and the Pentagon had it there. They had the account open on a big screen on one of their computers. I mean, these are accounts we've been following here for years. They've been very accurate, let's say, when it comes to data. One of several, right? And well, they published this statement. The Kurdish National Army, the SMK, has been spreading this statement on different networks. They claim to have destroyed a key barracks belonging to the Revolutionary Guard in Karmash. Let's remember where Karmash is. We have already talked several times in the last few days about this area, which is located in the north, especially since the day we mentioned it. I left the pin here and haven't removed it since. We've had to report incidents in this area several times. We have to remember that the area where the Kurds are usually located, the Kurds are usually in the northern part. Up there in the north of Syria, north of Iraq, and north of Iran, that's where Kurdish forces usually operate. This time, they are Kurds who are on the Iranian side, closer to Turkmenistan in that region. According to reports from Marchad of Karmash, to the specific area of Karmash, which is where this latest attack is said to have happened, they claim that today, January 13th, they might have had the chance to take over the entire base. There have been several days with reports that many of the security forces have stopped operating. There are 2 points here. Some say that certain security forces are no longer operating or that they have already joined the protesters, and others say that this is what the regime fears, but that this situation has not been fully confirmed yet. So this area, specifically this area called Karmash, is where the base was supposedly taken. This one is closer to Iraq, towards Baghdad. It's on the Iranian side, but on the Iraqi side, claimed by the Kurdish National Army. The SMK released an official statement taking responsibility for a direct attack on an Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps base. This area and this base, it's important to remember, are operated by the Revolutionary Guard. Not the official army, but rather the army of the supreme leader, which is more important, heavier, with more weapons. The army is like something secondary. Over there, the powerful one is the Revolutionary Guard army, which is the real army. The objective of the attack would be a retaliatory operation for the fighters who fell in previous clashes, specifically in the Battle of Dare Dare. The unit in charge of the Dalu units reportedly claimed that they had destroyed the headquarters of Commander Firoz Safari in that location. 3 Kurdish teams took part in the action. 2 of them reportedly fired from different directions, while a third infiltrated directly inside, avoiding any enemy response. The statement mentions that there were enemy casualties and others managed to escape, but the exact number is not specified. The text describes the Iranian government as occupying forces for them. The Iranians who are there are the ones occupying, and they claim that this was a heroic struggle for the Kurdish people.
Exactly. Who are the SMK Kurds? They report that Iran has deployed tens of thousands of soldiers and fighters in Hash al-Shabi, which is a pro-Iranian Shia group. They were in Iraq and were brought to Iran to repress not only the Kurds but also in different places. For their part, the SMK claims that they have taken Iranian positions and bases until their territories are liberated. They will keep this stance. Are they going to stand firm on this? So far, Iran has neither confirmed nor denied the loss of this base or the reported attack. But Iran right now is not in a position for this kind of thing, yes?
They're not communicating anything about that. So let's say supposedly there's a base, the statement is there, and the intelligence sources are also there. Let's say it seems like this is the case, but like everything in information, we also have to wait for more confirmations, although it seems to me that's what's going on. Now they're releasing photos and videos of these weapons. very heavy weapons, since they would be getting ready to fire at the population with stronger weapons, more like artillery. According to what they're deploying, these would be heavy machine guns to use in protests that might happen in some places this time. They're already taking things to a harsh level, and we had mentioned this situation to you before. I mean, it's an extremely orthodox regime, extremely harsh. And well, if there are states from 79, it's precisely because of that. The thing is, this situation is already demanding, existential for them. Either they end up very badly, or they end up making the population the ones who suffer the most. Those opposed, especially in the population. We're talking about extremely high numbers. Right now, there's an urgent meeting at the White House, and there still isn't any result from it. An urgent meeting where there are two groups. The group led by J.D. Vance, who don't want the United States to get involved in Iran, is opposing the decision to go against the Ayatollahs. Meanwhile, Marco Rubio wants them involved in Iran. Apparently, those facts will become clear over time. But apparently the possibility of taking action is winning. I mean, Marco is winning. Marco Rubio's version, Marco Rubio, they say. Yes, he would think action should be taken and that the Ayatollah's regime's weakness should be exploited. At the same time, there's J.D. Vance and another group that follows him who are exactly opposing this.
Also, a moment ago, it seems that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, John Kane, who is the non-military eye, came in, and he will give his point of view at this emergency meeting that drew a lot of attention. If you remember, I mentioned to you this afternoon that there was going to be a message from Donald Trump, but the message hasn't come out yet. And, well, we believe it's related to this because it's a super important issue with international movements and alerts, right?
Yes, we're going to talk about that right now. We're going to break down the whole situation, and we'll also mix in other news because, well, there's more. Several of your comments have confirmed what we thought, and I agree. That when there are situations like, for example, what happened in Venezuela when it happened, that we shouldn't forget about the other news either. I think that's absolutely right, and we're going to apply it, and we're always paying attention to your opinions. We'll discuss what's happening in Iran and cover other news and situations. Here are these images where you can see they're in this meeting. It's striking that they're in the Oval Office, they're right there. Donald Trump had already left, supposedly. It looked like he was going to give the statement, and then suddenly something happens and he comes back. Did he get more information that made him change his mind later? So there's this discussion. It's not exactly clear what they're going to decide today. Has he refused to answer questions, or has he just avoided giving details? We know he doesn't want to share specifics. There are already some indications. They're talking about the possibility of a conflict. It's imminent. We're seeing the signs even though they've been there for days, right? But right now there are even clearer signs. In the end, this is a process and it's happening right now. Here's another image of the White House. Just a slightly wider shot, but you can see it there. Well, this is what's happening right now. Now let's move on to several other things that are going on. Just let me save here. A quick shout out to Seca and Jerez, to Adriana, to Caribele, and to the whole community. Leave your comments, we'll be reading them with great pleasure in a bit. Leave your like. And many thanks to that community that makes the effort to support this channel and make it possible for us to be here. Through super chats, through memberships, all of that simply makes the channel sustainable. So thank you for helping us. And look, let's move on to other important matters. Evita, we're coming back to this situation. It's best to report and avoid it. And we also have to see what Iran's reactions are, because there are reactions, and these figures also have significant military power. We'll discuss events inside Iran and actions by its forces abroad. We'll continue the conversation since these movements are noteworthy. But above all, what is the reaction of Iran's Ministry of Defense? It's no longer just an issue for the most urban president or the supreme leader.
But it hasn't come out yet, by the way?
Well, it's just that it hasn't come out yet. Since then, since we told you here that it seemed like he had submitted his resignation, that there was information he had presented his resignation to the supreme leader, and then they said he was going to make a statement, and after that, nothing else was heard from him. He's the president of a country, and in the middle of a crisis, he doesn't come out to speak, and a day goes by, and another day goes by, and another day goes by. Obviously, there's something going on inside, something happening internally. Also, the supreme leader in almost 3 weeks now has only come out to speak once.
But that's just once and very important. When these protests happened about this girl who had taken off, who was wearing the cloth that covers her hair incorrectly, on that occasion, despite the protests, Ali Khamenei never appeared. It wasn't important enough for her, but this time she does show up. And also, it has really caught the attention of experts. There's a message in the background that says, if God is with us, no one can stand against us. So, also in this message of, they are the bad ones, we are the powerful ones because we are on God's side.
This is the typical message of the supreme leader. Now, the Minister of Defense will go to Sis Nassar side, this one here on the screen. He assures that they will respond with all their strength and to the last drop of blood against any military action by the United States, this person assures. He announces on the state network that the regime's response will be brutal. After President Donald Trump's warning of possible action, the President of the United States had warned that if they executed civilians, they would take action. And well, that's the information we have this morning. That's how they surprised us. A leak from within the government to Reuters, a leak to Reuters. They said and listed the names of 2,000 deceased people and also those who had given the order. So, in light of this information, more details came out where they said, well, it's not 2,000 anymore, we're talking about between 2,000 and 20,000 who have died, so the number has kept increasing and the reports are terrifying. I mean, it's tremendous. Within this message given by the Minister of Defense, he sends a message that draws attention, but it's only words. I'm not sure. I was thinking of just saying, okay, they're going to give the typical message and they're also going to give notices that the military movement is going to become even more extensive. Remember, since the protests began, missiles have been launched repeatedly during exercises and similar events. And the population didn't pay any attention at all to the people who are protesting. No, they weren't intimidated by that. They weren't intimidated by the gunfire. It was amazing to see exactly, if you want to describe today's scene.
It was, well, the place where the bodies are being handed over to the families. And literally, at that moment, many people would surely think, well, they're going to back down. No, because they're handing over their children, their wives, their parents without life. On the contrary, people were enraged, shouting that they wanted them to die. The transfer is a situation for the authorities while
they were surrendering their children already killed by the authorities and had lost all fear. So, really, yes, my respect goes to the society that is already fed up with this whole situation. And look, when you see the images of people protesting, you see images like that. Crowded, wide shots, whether it's panning, shots from one side to the other, right?
This image is said to be from today. It came at 3:56 post-meridian Mexico time, though I'm unsure of the exact time zone. And it has attracted a lot of attention because a few more images are starting to leak again on Starlink. On Starlink, word got out that they're trying to provide them with more internet despite the blockades by the regime.
Well, seeing the images packed full, shots from one side, from the other side, I mean, you go and you don't see the regime's shots that they wanted to show, like, look, they're not there for us either. Many support us like Maduro did. You know, those close shots, so you can't see much on this side. And you look toward the back and you can see there are cars coming behind. Because there aren't more people behind. And if you look to the side, there's nothing there either. You think, well,
many of the images were also reused.
Old too, but anyway, the thing is, well, there's a sense of exhaustion, right? And in this situation, what Germany was saying today is that when your only way to control is violence. That control is over. I mean, you no longer have control over the population. And that's what the supreme leader has already lost. Well, even at this point, it seems that the situation hasn't been understood. I mean, a lot of people still aren't very clear about this issue. Many new people join the channel and claim nothing is happening, that everything is calm. Well, a lot of people have missed this situation, and it's like they're just arriving and only now finding out, and they're not. Well, they have no idea about what's been happening these last few days, which has been, well, surprising considering what's going on. There is already a secret diplomatic contact in which, despite this break, Aragashi would be talking with Donald Trump. With this Wittkopf, I mean, there's a communication, there's a phone line, let's say, through which the Iranian foreign minister has, let's say, that last link of dialogue with the United States through Wittkopf, who is this special envoy who has been sent to Ukraine, he's a real estate businessman who has been heavily criticized for being put there by Trump, and he's the last diplomatic contact, let's say. But basically, all the questions that journalists asked Donald Trump yesterday and today. Let's see, the number of people who have lost their lives has already been shown. Is something going to happen or not? And today, the United States, Donald Trump, he posted on his Truth Social account. He sent an incendiary message urging people to take over their institutions. And we're not going to leave him alone. We're not going to leave him alone. We're going to go help them. Help is already on the way, he says, because that's the word he uses. Help is already on the way. Often, these dialogues or conversations, real or not, are just for show. That's usually the case. The decision is made, things are happening, and this is just for show, as if they're only now considering it. Yeah, because it's happened before, so, well, we don't really know.
We don't know. And actually, this weekend, one topic that came up today is that Steve Whitcomb, this same person from the White House, also met secretly with Reza Pahlavi, the prince or ex-crown prince. And well, it's striking that this meeting also took place, that it was kept quiet because this was leaked today.
Exactly. And look, let's move on to another point about this, and we'll go to other notes and then we'll start combining them. But let's move on to another point that's also very important and relevant. Breaking news. Let's go with that. That's right. At this moment, several countries have been claiming that all the lines have already been crossed when the numbers and images of those who died in this situation were released. The countries that had been very subtle, like, oh, I'll give you a dirty look next time I see you, basically. Yes, Europe has always been...
It's very lukewarm.
Like very lukewarm, exactly. So this time they actually spoke out, right? Especially the United States, France, Germany, Australia, Canada, and many more countries. Telling their population, each one to their own citizens, not to Canadians, to their own citizens, telling them, if you're in Iran, you need to leave immediately. All the countries today, well, not all the countries, but let's say many countries, let's say world powers that have citizens living in Iran, because they have family, because they have ties, whatever you want, but they live there for work, whatever it is, they're being told to leave, or maybe because they got married there, or whatever the reason. But the point is that the citizens who are on that side are being told to get out. This situation also draws attention. There's a tremendous situation, and within this, there are two things that catch my attention. That's because it's already a movement that's like a sign that something is happening. And another very clear sign is China, Russia, Iran, and South Africa held military exercises together. If I'm not mistaken, those were the 4 countries involved. There were several countries that were in a block, not the classic block of Russia, China, Iran, etc. They were going to do military exercises. They were in process. Those military exercises were already underway. What do you think happened? What do you think happened? Well, Iran suddenly says, you know what, I have to go, and the military? During this military exercise that was taking place, the Iranians withdrew from the exercise. Let's get into that detail, because for me that's a clear sign that they can't be doing exercises. They have to go back because something imminent is about to happen. It was an Iranian naval drill, not that Iran was withdrawn. Today it's reported that these Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa nations were there. South Africa wasn't, Russia was.
China was in South Africa?
In South Africa, then told to return.
Exactly. In this exercise, which is ironically called Will of Peace 2026, the army is involved. This exercise is set for January 9 to 16 and is expected to ensure maritime security. That was the plan. China leads, joined by South Africa, Russia, the United Arab Emirates, and others. The pressure we're seeing right now is due to the announcement made by Donald Trump about the 25% tariffs. In addition to these constant threats we've been hearing, it has made Iran nervous, and they have decided to be on alert for a possible attack.
They simply withdraw from the exercise, but they're going to have to come back. They were all already headed toward this movement, and this would show, or at least be another addition, right? Or another sign that both that and the withdrawal of the countries from that place, well, that something is happening, right? I mean, that's the issue. Now we're going to get into more details about this situation, that's all. Yeah, I don't know if you have the list of countries that have been reacting so we can talk about it, because I also find it very interesting.
But the United States, Canada, Germany, and others, including Australia, Japan, Taiwan, New Zealand, and Singapore, those are the countries that have currently asked their citizens to leave the country, meaning Iran, as soon as possible. It says, leave the country right now, have a plan to leave Iran. They don't rely on United States government aid. The United States gave this warning about 2 days ago, if I recall correctly. And basically, they were asking them to leave immediately, and if they couldn't leave, to hide somewhere, to have water, to have medicine, and so on. Another thing that has caught attention right now is that apparently they have started to release people who have dual nationality, meaning those who are both American and Iranian. But I think it's an attempt to look good with the United States.
Probably. The problem right now that these countries are facing is that maybe it's too late to leave. That's why they say, if you can't leave, hide, right? And the thing is, there's an internet shutdown, but there's also a closing of the borders. The borders, at least the most important ones, all reports say they're closed. So if the borders are closed, they're going to have to find other ways to evacuate that country. But that's for everyone too.
They're told to flee through Turkey and Armenia. That's basically the safe zone. And they're told that if they have to hand over their passport, they could be detained for exactly that reason.
So be careful with that. The main way out is basically, well, to the north, they mention Armenia. It's a possible way out. The other border is Turkey, located in the northwest. The countries have been recommending leaving through the northwest. And that's the thing, because the other exit would be Pakistan, the other exit would be Afghanistan. And, well, I imagine that's more complicated. Or through the Persian Gulf itself, which is even more difficult. So we should leave through the west or northwest, since that's where the capital is. I assume it's one of the most populated cities, right? Iran has this whole region very densely populated. So they tell them to leave mainly through those areas. What about Turkey and this part of Armenia? So, well, there's that other part of the protest, the rebellion. I would say no, because this is more of a rebellion. It started on December 28th and today is January 13th. Besides, December 21st is when the labor protests started, and then on the 28th is when they really spread. And this becomes, well, a situation that's already out of control. Intelligence agencies from various countries, likely including Israel, the United States, Russia, and China, are involved. We know different powers' intelligence services are present. They're playing their final game to determine which side Iran, particularly the Shiite Ayatollahs, will choose, which has been, well, a country very close to Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, very close to Russia, very close to all of this. And, well, they're going to look for another reality, right? Now, the doctors are finding out, they've been confirming that hospitals keep receiving wounded people, they keep receiving deceased people. We know that the attacks are still happening, and that's a report that sooner or later we hope justice will be served. Because they're taking the wounded, and then they don't come back. I mean, they take them away wounded, and then they don't return. So that situation, well, another issue that also comes up, what has the help been like so far? Really? Visible, well, mostly intelligence from internet antennas, from Starlink, things like that. Nothing beyond that. Well, that's also something else that's being reported. About a week later, it started happening. People really began arming themselves. I mean, unlike other protests, which were bigger and had riots, but not with weapons, this time the situation is already armed. That's why I say this is more of a rebellion now, right? Why? Well, because we're seeing how they're using weapons. And, well, I think at some point they decided this has to be an armed movement now, right? So basically, this is already a situation of war or civil war or rebellion or revolution, however you want to call it. Let's shift to other topics for now and return to this issue later. In Venezuela, it's reported that, well, they've been releasing 400 political prisoners according to the regime. The reality is very different. The reality is totally different, and this would be a lie from the regime of Delcy Rodriguez. Now, according to what's being reported, they wanted to say no, or, according to the regime, that 400 prisoners have been released, but this was said by the president of the Chavista parliament. By the way, El Ciro Rodriguez's brother, Jorge Rodriguez, who announced that release, said it would be great news. They said 400 political prisoners would be released, which is great, but as Foro Penal points out, where are they? Where do you say they were released? The information verified by the non-governmental organization Foro Penal is that there have been 56 actual releases from January 8th until now.
Far below that number. Rodriguez also denies there are political prisoners. He assured that those released were not detained for ideological reasons, but for breaking the law or calling for foreign invasion. For its part, the Chavista National Assembly has not published an official list. Also, the names and conditions are not known. And this obviously has generated a lot of doubt among the families and human rights defenders. Literally, outside the prisons like the helicoid, there are families who have overcome their fear and are asking for their loved ones to be returned, those who are still inside.
According to Foro Penal, they are denouncing this manipulation that is being done with the figures. It is reported that there would be more than 1,000 political prisoners. The number is also a bit complicated. And it's not just the helicoid, there are also several prisons that have political prisoners as well. Because they were protesting, because of this, because of that. But the point is that they're there, right? And of course they'll tell you it's because they did something illegal, of course. That's what they'll say. And they're not going to say they're political prisoners. I mean, obviously not. The point is that, well, up until now, they haven't been released. They've made a mockery of everything they promised Trump over and over again. And so here's the thing. If Trump is going to let this slide and keep things exactly the same, or does the internal dispute also draw attention? Right now, well, there's a division within that regime that also draws attention, with some very curious mixed messages. Today, this Dios gave this message. Let's see, we can listen to part of that message.
Thank you, Captain.
Well, hello.
President Nicolas Maduro and his wife are being held hostage there.
Thank you. And President Nicholas and his wife are being held hostage. Thank you. A complete overflow occurred, and he said over 100 people died. Cabello's narrative has been one in which he clearly does not want to negotiate with the United States, but his narrative now seems to indicate that he does want to negotiate. So there's a division?
Exactly. The government says classes and daily activities are gradually resuming. They were supposed to have psychologists explain what happened to the children. They're worried the children are traumatized by the attack on the United States, but ignore their own actions and what the children witness. That's something. A video went very viral where a child, very scared, approaches Diosdado and asks him if he's going to take his mom away. Doesn't that worry them? No.
That part doesn't worry them?
No, that part doesn't. So, well, the operations have obviously generated international condemnation in many countries because of the way the United States acted. But they also say it's Nicolas Maduro, right? He wasn't the person who was actually taking a real position had he stolen or put himself in as president.
Just the conflict and the internal experiences. I mean, everything this whole mess brings. It shows changes that are in form. But as they say, changes in form can also be changes in substance. And this is a change that really catches my attention. I mean, seeing it this way, it's basically that approach of a leadership that Diosdado wants to fill. I mean, Maduro is removed and Diosdado takes over. He has a very similar characteristic to Nicolas in that he likes being on screen. He likes to go out and talk and talk and talk. If they're not like that, they're not around. He has the show, right? No, even if he doesn't have everything, he's always going out and showing up. So, well, they said, okay, change of image, and the focus is going to be, let's look presidential, so to speak, not showing anything extra. Like, if there were a bunch of people there doing things and working and stuff, I mean, well, it's an interesting topic. It's also strange, this move that was attempted by this oil tanker that tried to leave without paying Petróleos de Venezuela, Sociedad Anónima, and the United States sent it back. Because of him, I'm telling you. I mean, this whole situation shows that there's a strange break there, an important internal split. Another thing is that the issue with Iran is making it so that anything that was planned for Venezuela just isn't moving forward. Because obviously right now there's another concern, which is what's happening in that region of the world. So, in the meantime, the oil blockade will continue. Are the ships from the United States going to stay in that area? Not all of them, but some of them. If Rodriguez is called the acting president, then obviously he will be there. Well, playing this double game, so to speak. I'm friends with Diosdado and Padrino, but I also get along, or I can get along decently well, with Donald Trump. No, it's like that double game he's playing right now, which, well, isn't very clear either, so what's the intention, right? So, if that's how it's going to be from now on, they're going to say yes to everything Trump says, but at the same time, they're going to be
pretending not really agreeing? Yes.
Not exactly, but we'll watch what happens next. In Venezuela, the acting president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, would be resuming this Tuesday. Isn't that also...
Diosdado and Delcy Rodriguez are already back in X, remember? They had already left, actually. There's the X. Is it forbidden, or was it forbidden in Venezuela? And well, Nicolas Maduro had his account taken away many years ago.
Exactly, but well...
He had a fight with Mr. Mouse.
With Mr. Mock. Well, it's interesting that Delcy Rodriguez already has a Twitter account, right? So she's already on social media. Her handle is Delcy Y Rodriguez V. That's how you can find her. And Diosdado also has his account there. So, well, they're also going to be creating their own narratives there. Let's address other matters. Before we get to what's happening in Iran and other updates, this elephant you're seeing here is an elephant that has taken the lives of 20 people. Just from January 1st to today, January 13th, this elephant has taken the lives of 20 people. Obviously, sometimes there are these elephants that either because of mistreatment or because their areas are invaded or simply because it's a very alpha elephant. Whatever you want. The point is, they report that in these past 2 weeks, so far in 2026 since the year began, it seemed this elephant's goal was to crush as many humans as possible. And so it's been spreading panic in rural areas according to the reports. This elephant, by the way, in a rural area of India has been causing this situation.
Exactly this elephant, since most of the attacks have happened at night, affecting people. People whose job is to watch over the rice in the granaries, or who were sleeping in their homes, which are very simple, made of mud, and especially, for example, in the case of the village of Babadia. A couple and their 2 children died in one of these attacks, considered the area's most brutal on record. Neighbors have started to organize themselves to do night patrols, light bonfires, and make noise with drums to try to scare the animal away, but so far it hasn't worked. This elephant is a young and very agile elephant, and it is moving in circles for more than 100 kilometers between forests and villages. Has that made it more difficult to capture?
There are several images of the elephant, and this is likely one, but they're unsure since the elephant has been elusive. So there are reports of different images, and they've really been trying to figure out which elephant it is. Well, it's a young elephant, very agile, that moves in circles, that travels, like you said, about 100 kilometers around. That's pretty intense. They think it's an elephant that's in heat, and it turns out that...
During that time, they go crazy?
Exactly. It turns out that now it's in heat, and it's in an area where there are a lot of people. So, in the end, if it runs into people, well, we already know what happens, right? I mean, during this time, those young elephants have extremely high testosterone levels and they get really intense. Let's put it that way. For now, even though they've been following tracks, and all of this is because of the rains and the whole situation of how things are in India, they say tracking this elephant's footprints has been impossible.
Exactly. In the last 18 years, more than 1,270 deaths caused by elephants have been recorded. It's just that every time they're there, people are settling closer and closer to the elephants' areas. It's normal for them to become more aggressive and attack eventually.
People say that they live in fear, that it's obviously a complicated situation for them. And for now, let's change the subject. And in other strange news, just to clear our minds a bit before we get back to the topic of Iran and what's happening in geopolitics. Well, there's something that caught our attention today, which is a move they're making in Florida. Where else, right?
Where else?
Where are they going to put the sin tax?
Just imagine.
I mean, if you're a sinner, watch out, watch out, watch out. You're going to have to pay taxes.
You shouldn't owe because it'll happen here.
The thing is, well, how do you detect if you're a sinner? Well, it's very easy through digital content. This time, if you visit OnlyFans, well, it's very likely that for Christians at least, that's what the law says. Well, you're sinning, right? And in the face of this, well, what they call the digital generation. A Republican candidate has proposed a 50% sin tax on OnlyFans content creators. And well, that also draws attention.
Exactly. James Fishback is an investor, entrepreneur, and also wants to be Florida's Republican governor. And he has proposed this new tax called the sin tax, meaning sin as in wrongdoing, where a 50% tax would be placed on the income generated by OnlyFans creators, but only in the state. He recently had an interview on a Christian and right-wing channel and said, if you are an OnlyFans creator and you live in Florida, get ready to pay 50% of your income to the state. It's a sin tax, isn't it? It's crazy. It feels like we're back in 1900.
The discussion now is whether this will apply to people too. Because they were also, let's say, discussing whether to apply it to people as well. I mean, someone with an account living in Florida and this one, but you say it's not really, well, in that sense. If you pay, I don't know, $20, then you'll pay $10, 10 extra dollars. Still, it's not a big difference for those who
are affected by the amount.
The ones who are really hit hard are the creators, right? Because they lived there. I mean, and even though most of the content on OnlyFans seems to be adult, not all of it is. I mean, not everything is adult content. Although I do imagine that's what generates the most. So, the other day there was a girl, a young woman, not a little girl, who makes $83 million a year, an impressive amount. Well, she does live in Florida.
She lives in Florida and says that she gladly pays that tax. As long as the same taxes are also charged to companies, she says business owners are not charged those taxes. If I am just one person, why are you going to charge me more taxes when I am just one person?
What if I'm alone? And what about business owners?
About that.
I don't like it, but well, that's how it is, right?
She is Sophia Rain.
Sophia Rain, who is from Florida. Well, $83 million a year, they tell her you have to pay 50% for being a sinner.
This one moves this way.
Well, yes, she goes to another state. But anyway, the point is that this is part of the movement that is Republican, which has obviously generated...
Haven't they found out how much he made? And he said, how can I take advantage again?
Another curious note about other sinners, since we're talking about that.
Yes, they're sinners.
It's about high-flying sinners, isn't it? We're talking about these individuals here, the famous Clintons, former President Clinton and the former First Lady, former Secretary of State, and former presidential candidate. Also, they would have to testify and appear regarding the Jeffrey Einstein case, and they don't really want to do that.
They announced that they are not going to comply with the requirement to testify before Congress about their relationship with financier Jeffrey Epstein. Meanwhile, they have launched very harsh attacks against the Republicans and Donald Trump. It's an issue that could get them into trouble. Of course. I mean, if they don't appear, this could happen. It could be considered contempt, and obviously they could get into serious legal trouble. Both Clinton's wife, Hillary, and Bill Clinton himself are tremendous issues. I mean, because of everything that's happening. I mean, do a lot of people think the Epstein case has already been forgotten? No, people haven't forgotten about the Epstein case. Neither the politicians investigating this, both Republicans and Democrats, nor the general population or those in poverty have addressed it. Look, today it happened. Well, I don't know if it was today or if it was earlier. The White House responded to this?
Well, this was posted on different social networks where Donald Trump is shown. I don't know if you saw it. Someone shouts at him from afar. It's inside the plant, one of the Ford plants. Was Trump visiting a Ford plant? And someone shouts at him, calls him a defender of pedophiles, and while he's there, that's what they shout at him. And look at his reaction. He says, "Fuck you." He says, "Fuck you." I mean, well, he throws that insult at him and then goes over there. Just look at that. He flips him off too. The big shot, there he is. Look, there he is. He flips him off. He calls him Donald Trump. And besides flipping him off, he basically says, well, screw you. Let's say, I mean, that's in Spanish. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that this is going to continue, right? I mean, why? Because the data that should be released isn't being released because basically, well, that's how it is. He's getting into a bunch of conflicts just so people don't talk about the issue. And, well, people are going to keep reminding him, of course, sooner or later he's going to run into people who will keep reminding him, politicians, people in general. Well, in the end, that's a situation that both Republicans and Democrats are deeply involved in. And, well, people are still waiting for all the information to be revealed. But with what's already come out, the calls and data, it's already a lot of information.
I mean, for example, many politicians who maybe didn't know Epstein themselves, but their sponsors, since they all have sponsors, maybe they did. So many are indirectly involved.
Involved, of course. Let's move on. What's happening over there? The president, heir of, well, the crown prince, who they say could be like a, well, activist, let's say a political activist for the transition in Iran, this former crown prince, because he no longer considers himself a prince or anything like that. He says that in any case, well, he could help now with the issue. But this person assures that the army should join the protests against the regime. He asks the army to join the protests. And this obviously is also drawing attention over there in Iran. And obviously, I mean, the thing is that there's no internet, right?
They've had no internet for 130 hours?
130 hours without internet. And in the meantime, the message that this Reza Pahlavi is sending is that he urges the army, he asks the army to go and side with the people, right? Not on the side of the supreme leader, right? He makes a direct call to the Iranian army to join from now on the massive civil protests against the Islamic regime. He makes a direct call to the Iranian army to, from now on, protest against the Islamic regime.
Exactly. The tweet that Donald Trump posted that day and the message from Pahlavi says, "You are the National Army of Iran, not of the Islamic Republic." He asked them to protect their fellow citizens in the face of the repression that is happening. The International Federation for Human Rights has demanded urgent sanctions against Iran. Meanwhile, organizations like World Health Organization and human rights activists report at least 1,850 people dead and more than 16,700 detained, including 9 minors. By the way, in the next 24 hours, I think starting tomorrow, they're probably going to start hanging people. It's an issue that Donald Trump mentioned that if it happened, he would take action. Now, we don't know if he will actually do something or not, but these cases have drawn a lot of attention.
They've already announced it's happening in a stadium. It's not the type used for hanging. Apparently, it's a very serious issue, not just tough. Now, well, in this last attempt, final attempt at diplomacy, Steve Witkoff met with Pahlavi to analyze the situation and start possible plans for a political transition by regime. Now, Witkoff is no longer speaking directly with Iran as much, although it is also known that there is communication between Israel and Pahlavi. No, this isn't it. Come on, this isn't the ideal in every sense for Israel, but Israel prefers to have Pahlavi rather than the supreme leader. And also because many, let's say, leaders, Iranian leaders within Iran, have given their opinion who have said that, well, that they view his activism positively but don't want him as a leader. They prefer something else or simply a democracy. There are groups that support him, but the issue is very divided. Basically, they just want the first person in the regime to fall, right? And in any case, they appreciate the support that this Pahlavi has had. And he has become an important figure in that sense. And he has been doing this activism for years now, for many years. He also said that he wasn't interested in being a monarch.
Not exactly. He says that for the first time in 47 years right now in Iran, there are real conditions to end the regime. Because these aren't the first protests, but they are the ones that have shaken the Ayatollah's regime the most.
Is that so? Now, they are indeed considered the largest protests in the history of that regime. I mean, there haven't been as many protests in that regime as there are right now. It's also bringing out the worst side of the regime, right? I mean, it's bringing out the most extremely harsh and extreme side, isn't it? And that's also a risk, obviously. We have to remember that they have spent decades creating weapons, right? And developing weapons and producing them. They have a space program. I mean, let's be careful with that, because in those desperate moves, it can be very dangerous. So they might bring out some things that are unknown in that sense.
Well, this is the character you were talking about earlier. This is how she was born. He said they had surprises and were better prepared than before the June War's 12 days, if you recall. That's how it was. Nasri said they were better prepared and had surprises. What surprise? Who knows, but I can say.
Exactly. So I say no. It's not that the regime necessarily, I mean, if it's very weakened, yes, I think it's very likely. Let's see the end of the Ayatollah, though there may be surprises. Well, these are people who have always been saying they want to destroy the West. They haven't always been focused on that very extreme idea, not of destroying everything, right? Europe, the United States, Canada, the East, basically anything different from them. And they've also had, well, a strong movement toward proxy operations. In other words, operating in other countries, expanding through the Revolutionary Guard, through the special forces they have within the same Revolutionary Guard, operating in Brazil, and recently one of their closest figures was arrested there. In Uruguay, in Paraguay, in Venezuela, in Mexico, well, even in the United States, they have found people close to what is the Revolutionary Guard. I mean, they are looking to expand after all, so that's another issue as well. Who knows how many people they might have in other parts of the world? Yes.
Exactly, and right now they just shared. In Iran, they sent a letter to the United Nations Antonio Guterres, where Iran's mission to the United Nations today accuses the United States of looking for a pretext for military intervention. This comes after Donald Trump said he was going to act firmly. Well, he says, the fantasies and the policy of the United States is Iran. They are rooted in regime change with sanctions, threats, orchestrated unrest, and chaos as a modus operandi to create a pretext for military intervention. Well, they continue with the idea, with the narrative that these are protests created from the outside, when in reality, as the same president has already said, they are internal problems.
Assuming they were created, let's say they were created, okay, let's suppose they were created, let's suppose that thousands and thousands of people were deceived and went out to protest. Are you saying just one? Then you would have to assume that all these people have, well, some kind of delay, right? For them to be deceived. So why would you go and kill them? If they have a problem, if they're confused or deceived, it's a mental issue. I don't know why you're going to eliminate them. I mean, why are you going to attack all those people? Because from your point of view, if you're such a nice guy, then talk to them and say, hey, you know what? They're deceiving you. It's information here. I mean, no. I mean, they go and bam, 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 bam. I mean, it's a mind-blowing topic, but I don't know. But anyway, that's the statement. Here's the other part of the statement. This is the second page, which is what they send to the United Nations, and they're giving, well, this criticism, this justification. At this point, being 9:24 at night, I would expect that there would already be an announcement from Donald Trump about what's going to happen.
Yes, I know nothing has come out, nothing at all. This one too. Another topic that's starting to be shared today about what they'll say is that the Iranian authorities, besides cutting off the internet, are also taking down the Starlinks. If not, I couldn't. Cell phone calls aren't working right now. International calls are surprisingly open, but there are no local calls or any calls at all. They're now confiscating more of those old satellite dishes from back in the day. They've also been confiscating footage from cameras, private security cameras, to identify the protesters, to find out who is participating in these protests. Although most people cover their faces, is that true as well?
Yes, that's true. Now they rarely use flags, likely so they aren't caught with one if they escape or leave. Do you remember the image I just showed you of Trump over there at the Ford plant? Well, it's now confirmed that the employee who shouted at him has already been suspended. They've already suspended him. Well, it was obvious they were going to suspend him. But surely Wordlet must be thinking, right? This video, if he's suspended, well, I hope they give him his job back later on. Yes, exactly, it's terrible, but obviously there was going to be a reaction, and if there wasn't some kind of punishment, Trump would have gone after the whole plant. I know this guy is intense, let's say, the character. It's called freedom of speech. Unless you say something he dislikes, then that's your freedom. Well, the protests are there. Hasn't the situation multiplied in these last few days? No, obviously we'll have to wait and see what images can be confirmed from today, because we also have to wait for these confirmations. There's a lot, well, despite the situation, a lot of enthusiasm that a change is coming. I imagine that's also what makes people just go out. The problem right now is that there's a lack of supplies. It's been 15 days or more than 15 days, so now there's a supply issue. I mean, that's also something that needs to calm down a bit at some point, because if not, well, food, medicine and all that. So that's why they were saying that in the next 2 or 3 days there would be a sort of pause in this situation. Now that the numbers are out, you can see the whole situation. Besides, Trump's message makes it seem like, well, know that the doors aren't going to be closed. Who knows, we'll be paying attention. But let's move on to another topic. Well, according to reports, Ukraine has taken back control. Look at the city of Kupiansk. Do you remember this city that Russia and Ukraine fought over so much? Well, right now, breaking news reports that the key city of Kharkiv, this city of Kupiansk, is back in Ukrainian hands. Up to the offensive that cut off vital supply routes and that reinforces. Seeing such a strategic city is a major morale boost for Ukrainians, as it was clearly important. Right?
They really did have you in intense urban combat for months, especially against the Russian forces that were entrenched there. The Ukrainian flag has been raised again on the local administration building. It's good to have a military symbol for the country, something symbolic and military. Has this war lasted longer than the Nazi invasion of Russia? Impressive. The Ukrainian advance also blocks a key supply route. What did Pepe say? Since this point is used to supply troops in the eastern region, it weakens Russia's logistical and offensive capabilities.
Well, it's a city that's nearby, and Arko, here's Belgorod, here's Kursk. On this side, this area was the one that Ukraine took from Russia, and they stayed there for months. And there was just no way to get them out, Until, well, the North Koreans arrived, and in a way they did help to get them out. This area of Skopje is right next to the border with Russia. We're talking about this area being approximately 30 to 35 kilometers in a straight line, of course, to the border with Russia. This area that they would have recovered is important, as you can see, because several routes converge here, right? Some go toward Yarkov, which is over here on this side, right? So obviously it was key to take this because Yarkov is a city that is very heavily fortified. But then suddenly they would lose some of these smaller towns around here, right? And that's what happened. Today a topic was mentioned, and with so many things happening right now, it almost goes unnoticed, right? That too is interesting. Let's also look at more images. This is also part of what's happening in Ukraine. No, sorry, in Iran. No, yes, that's what it is.
People fighting with some government forces, police forces, and so on, right?
Here's the situation with some incidents occurring according to what?
Notably, countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates haven't made any comments.
Yes, we're all quiet. This movement is also being observed. This is near, near there, the Persian Gulf and this whole area, right? The famous Strait of Hormuz, isn't it? What we're seeing here is the movement of a high-altitude surveillance drone. An MQ-4C Triton from the United States Navy took off from the airbase in Al Dhafra in Abu Dhabi, it says. This is to patrol an area in the Strait of Hormuz. These patrol missions are mostly routine. No, it doesn't necessarily mean anything is actually happening here. After all, it's the Strait of Hormuz, right? Its base is there in this area of Abu Dhabi, and that's where this drone takes off from. It goes back and forth, back and forth. I imagine that the countries like the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, so they prefer this one. It's not very close to Iran, and they prefer, well, not to. Not to comment, not to talk much about the subject, not this. And well, that's how it goes, that's how it is, right? That's the issue. But anyway, let's move on to other important topics.
Well, Trump was questioned about the issue of time, which we have to remember is about to be updated soon. The time to be updated.
Okay, because it's the time.
The time, which is the treaty about what is free trade between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And, well, the president said that the time agreement for the United States, he says, is not relevant. I mean, basically that he's not interested, but that Canada wants it. And, well, he is pushing for American companies to get a better deal. So, according to him, the United States isn't making as much money as it should.
Well, keep in mind, the treaty that he proposed, it's the treaty he proposed in his first term, and now it turns out it's not working, right? That's what he says. He had said it was the most important treaty in the history of the world, and now, well, I don't know, he doesn't like it anymore. The point is, well, this...
And now it's a very specific thing against Canada because basically today he said, well, Canada is the one who wants it. But for us, basically, it's irrelevant. Today it was Ford as well as General Motors and Stellantis. They depend on it because there's a supply chain that goes from parts here from Mexico and Canada. All three manufacture hundreds of thousands of vehicles each year in both countries.
Well, there you have it. That's the topic. Also, there's another very interesting matter, right? An invention, a scientific development by Mexicans. Specifically, the team of researchers from the Laboratory of Cellular and Molecular Physiology at the Center for Advanced Biomedical Research of the Autonomous University of Querétaro have achieved what is, well, an innovation. They claim that it would be a contraceptive pill specifically for men and that it is reversible. So let's say this male contraceptive, they claim it's going to be revolutionary in science. The scientific team at the University of Querétaro has developed this pioneering contraceptive pill, which is taken before having intercourse and works for 24 hours, without affecting fertility and also without affecting hormones. Because what happens with many pills, for example, at least the ones women use, is that they have a problem because they cause issues with hormones.
In fact, when women buy birth control pills, there's a paper that comes with them listing the side effects or possible illnesses they can cause. It's a paper like this, tiny letters that are supposedly very dangerous, but they say it's good. It has no side effects and provides 24-hour protection. Some might ask, how do I know if I'll have sex in 2 hours? Take it in the afternoon or at breakfast and you'll be ready.
The pill is intended as a pre-exposure method to be taken 1 to 2 hours before intercourse. Temporarily blocking sperm movement without affecting male hormones is sure to spark a lot of discussion as it sounds very interesting. We'll see how the issue is. I don't know what stage it's in right now, if this is going to be in process.
It's currently being tested. The contraceptive is currently in the in vitro testing phase with human sperm, which is a very important step before moving on to what would be clinical trials in humans. I hope it passes.
Well, let's see. Isn't it very interesting? Well, it's a development this time from a university in Querétaro, which I found super interesting. And many thanks to the community who send us these scientific advances from different countries. We're paying close attention to that. And we always like to share that part with you as well. Let's discuss the news. Not everything is bad. There are always interesting developments happening now, so we should mention those too. Thanks. Let's move to comments. How have you been? A big greeting to the whole community. Thank you very much for joining us, says Wendy. Iran will be free. The people have already decided. There's no turning back now. They know that by giving the lives of a few, they will free millions, says Wendy. Greetings, Wendy. I think that's the process they're in, right? They're in that process, and I think they're very determined. I feel like they've already realized that this regime has a weakness, and that's why it also becomes very violent. They don't want at all costs to just stay there, right? So, while I send you a big greeting, let me activate the chat on the screen here so I can read it. Hey, just one thing, it's super important, at least for us. Just a reminder that you can support this channel with a super chat by becoming a member of the channel. We have PayPal, we have several ways to support this independent channel, international information, which is here every day keeping you informed, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, or any day. Well, it obviously also needs your support. So I really appreciate the community that makes that effort, because thanks to that we can be here. So I really thank you all for that. Greetings to the whole community that also watches us, that is subscribed, that comments as well. Obviously that's appreciated, right?
Says Francisco Arce. Congratulations, Pepe, Tapatía. He says, we want cake, cake, cake. He says, Tapatía, come on, Tapatía, come to the channel.
Yes, there is, huh? Yes, there's some left.
Yes, there's some left.
Half the cake is left.
Yes, she says, these are the mañanitos, Pepe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Greetings. She says free freedom. It's Wednesday and will last all day. Greetings, free.
Greetings, Free. How have you been? Greetings, Francisco Arce. How have you all been? How have you lived through this strange year? Because 2026, well, what has surprised us is how fast everything is moving. Yes, everything is moving fast in every area. It seems like everyone waited in 2025, then decided to go all out and release everything in 2026.
From day one, it's intense. Greetings to Judith. Congratulations, Pepe Caribe. How are you? Greetings, thanks. Andy Quintana says hi, and you got yourself a picture. He says, what pitcher? What pitcher are you using? A water pitcher? A pitcher for drinking from the pitcher?
A pitcher.
Greetings and blessings to both of you in Boston. Thank you so much, Boston. He says, congratulations, Pepe. Wishing you many more to come. Yes, thank you. Greetings to 6-7, who also says, congratulations, Rico. I said this year has been really tough. I know it's only, 3 out of 10 so far.
10, only 3.
10, we haven't even made it through half a month, says Caribe. What's the cake? It's a country of cheese.
I've been craving a place full of cheese like this for months. Yesterday, the cold hit hard. I thought I messed up, but it's just the craving I've had since summer. More or less, but well, no, I haven't bought it or anything. And then the other day at Costco, they were giving out samples and it reminded me. I said, oh, I'm craving some cheesecake. It's really good. So I grabbed a piece and said, yeah, it's really great. So, well, they gave me some, right? And that's where we bought it. So yeah, that's it. I already ate my little piece and well, that's it. I was happy here. Thank you very much for the comments. Honestly, I really appreciate it. And well, being here with you on my birthday is for me a way to celebrate. I really enjoy what we do, honestly. It's something I like, right? And well, that's also why sometimes we don't take vacations, sometimes it's an issue.
Because we're not, oh, hey, and the live show, oh no.
No, yeah, it's kind of complicated. Why? Well, because I enjoy it, because I enjoy what it is. But anyway, thank you so much, Adilcia. Greetings and sorry. That classic cheese country.
With nothing absolutely the flattest compared to others?
No, yeah, no strawberries, nothing at all. Just cheese country. The cheese and the cookie it has like underneath, that thing, that's perfect, right?
He says, greetings to Javier Vasquez, watching from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Javier, how are things there? What's the atmosphere like with what's happening with lice? Greetings to Tapatia and Arce. Anna Hughes, congratulations and many more birthdays.
Thank you very much.
She says, hello, Pepe. I know. I hope everyone is well and sending lots of greetings. Mercedes for Pepe. May you have 1,000 more birthdays. Well, not 1,000 more. You don't have 1,000 yet. But well, yes, may you have 1,000 more.
Mercedes, thank you for the support. Mercedes, thank you very much.
Greetings as well. Anna Hughes also says greetings. Greetings, Anna.
Thank you so much, Anna. Big greetings and thanks for the super chat. A big greeting also to Anna Hughes, who is always here supporting us, and to the whole community. Obviously, everyone who is here, well, congratulations. Thank you very much.
Carabel says 2026 is when years of progress finally come together.
Yes, well, who said that? Who mentioned it? Caribel? Hey, is that a topic? Is it something like an astrological meaning or something like that? Or how was it? Is it just that? I think, well, I don't know why I feel that way, or I feel like that's it, that it's a year for things to happen, right? Yeah, I had heard that 2025 is going to be very complicated, but like a stuck year, a year of being stuck.
Being stuck, right?
And this one, honestly, I felt like there was a lot of news this year, but it all seems stuck. I mean, in general, like things happened, but it felt like nothing really got finished. And now it's like, now it's about results, right? I mean, it's really intense. How are you? Freedom. Greetings. Thank you very much for your comment, says Jeans. I have thought about that. I mean, maybe applying that during vacations, but to stream them, finding a hotel with good internet is a real issue, right? Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, and you just need to have a laptop that's good enough because we don't have one. I mean, this laptop is really crappy. Yeah, right? I don't think I can, but well, we'll see. We'd have to test it out, right? But yeah, that's how it is. I feel like it would be possible, of course, and besides, it would be really, really good. I think it would be fun to stream. It's like when Chavo del Ocho went to the beach, right? In this case, we would keep going to the beach, streaming from the pool or something. This one says, thank you so much, Wilbur, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Greetings, Wilbur. And well, to the community that's arriving, or rather that will arrive later on the replay, please also leave your comment. Please, it says, Fran Gamers, how have you been, Fran? Very good. Javier Vasquez, how are you too? Yeah, it's amazing, says Pixel, huh? Take your antenna, go ahead. Well, the little antenna is, I don't know how much that one costs, but with the Starlink antenna, I guess that's the main one.
Most hotels here offer good internet, unlike the United States where they charge for it.
Well, yeah, it could be. And besides, we also have internet that we pay extra for on our cell phones because since we stream using our phones, yeah, in theory we shouldn't run out, right? If you're on vacation for a week, you won't run out.
Greetings also to Damo, who's here and says happy birthday, and may 2026 be full of dreams come true, health, and many blessings. Greetings from Buenos Aires, greetings.
Hi, how are you? Good. What is clear in the interventions that are later made, not because they make a lot of noise, obviously whenever one country intervenes in another, it always makes a lot of noise. What is clear is that there can be good interventions or bad interventions, but neither is ideal. In other words, none of them are. I mean, they shouldn't be happening, but they do. The problem is when those interventions, let's say the intervention, or what happened when Germany was intervened or when Japan was intervened, right? So what happened, right? What happened with Japan? There have also been interventions that went very badly, right? So it's not just about whether interventions are good or bad. What one could question is, what is that society like? I mean, is that society ready to prosper, to live in a less orthodox situation or not, right? I think the reason why Saudi Arabia, for example, doesn't rise up is because in the end, it's still a dictatorship. I mean, it's a character, it's a king, not a monarch who controls everything. Yes, but why don't they rise up? Well, it's very simple. Just look at how they are, right? How they live. I mean,
they live in wealth.
And not just the wealth, but the rules, the laws have been calming them down. I mean, we have to remember when the Crown Prince came in, when he started operating within Saudi Arabia, women were forbidden to drive and face many restrictions. So, what does he do? Let's see what he says. We're going to go step by step, right? Opening up rights, right? With clothing here, I mean, everything started to become more flexible. Going too far, because no, also if you go too far, this is another ultra-Orthodox group that exists in those countries. In those countries, it's clear to me, there's always an ultra-Orthodox group that when their interests are affected, they go really crazy and start causing a big mess, right? So it's like they've learned to be more balanced. The issue with the Iranians is that it's been the exact opposite, right? So let's go. If there's real discontent, it doesn't matter how much intervention any country tries. If there isn't real discontent, it's not going to work, right? There has to be real discontent, otherwise it doesn't work. So in the case of Syria, well, there's the example. Or did they start the movement themselves and there didn't have to be any major intervention or anything like that? If there was intervention, well, there's always been intervention in Syria. From China, from Russia, from the United States, from any country you can think of, right? But this time, what the Syrians did very well was organize themselves and bring things down in a pretty interesting way. By the way, the operation that this control carried out, the operations they did with drones, had a big influence there. And also the fact that it had been a while, and he was an unwanted character with just a small group of supporters, right? That helped too, didn't it? Hello and thanks especially to Omar for the super chat. Omar asks, what does Marquez say?
Omar says happy birthday, thanks for the daily info.
Thank you, Omar. Sending greetings to New York, by the way. Not sure if you saw. We did a report a while ago about how things are going to be from now until the 22nd of this month. And one of the hardest hit areas is the whole northwest, northeast. Well, actually, not the whole northeast, but from New York to the Great Lakes, right? It'll be intense at times, but the cold shouldn't be too bad, right? Thank you, Omar.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
So where do you hit? Guerrero knows, right?
Of course, this one. What Trump promotes publicly, he should also promote internally, right? To outsiders, yes, that freedom and what they take.
They kill you, and that's why they got rid of this crazy old lady.
That if they kill someone, it's too much, he says. And I don't know what. And then over here on this side, you say, hey, so what's up with immigration and customs enforcement, right? And what happens? I mean, yes, totally. I mean, suddenly you see the statement that I couldn't believe. I mean, the statement he sent to the Iranians. I went straight to True Social to see for myself because I couldn't believe it, but he actually published it. And it said, well, that he urged them to take over the facilities from the civilian population, right? And it said, we're with you now. This is going to change. I mean, all of this, I said, look, how crazy. I mean, it doesn't sound like something a president would say, especially not from the United States.
Thank you, C. I think it's better for China to have a good relationship. Yes, they are definitely interested in taking Taiwan. That's true. They are very interested in that. But getting into a fight with the United States, they see that as very complicated.
Not me.
Do you think it's possible?
No, but not directly.
Of course.
I mean, directly?
No.
No, they won't do it directly if they can do it indirectly. Is this crazy or a joke? What's the biggest fear now? It's not a direct attack because a direct attack, well, the United States has a lot of experience operating all kinds of things since it's a war, right? But how do you operate when you don't know who the enemy is, when you're not sure? That's the problem, isn't it? That's what creates fear in any power. I imagine so, but in the case of the United States, I think that's one of their biggest fears. No, I honestly don't think they're afraid of a war. What they're afraid of are hybrid attacks, right? That's why that movie produced by Obama called Don't Look Back, I think. No, check it out. But that movie produced by Obama is very interesting because he produces it from experience, right? And that's what it shows you. If there's going to be an attack, that's how it'll be. I mean, one day you'll wake up and not know what happened, right? And things are finally working today. I think we had one of the...
Leave the world behind.
Leave the world behind. Leave the world behind. Today we had one of the strangest notes, but I think also one of the most interesting from my point of view, right? It suddenly went unnoticed, and sometimes I mention certain topics and notes. This note should be the most viewed of all, but well, it gets lost among the news, right? People are clearly interested in events in Iran, Venezuela, and elsewhere. For me, this note, if you check previous broadcasts, we published it 9 hours ago, has already been seen by 1,700 people. I don't know, maybe they're just not interested or they didn't get the notification. I don't know. This one right here, humbly, the little news didn't reach anyone, it says. Report. The United States may have acquired a sonic weapon. Maybe the title isn't right. I don't know what you think, but for me, that news is from another world. I mean, that's news that if you understand the potential of what's being said there, it's tremendous, right? And please check it out. Please check that article because I think, well, I'm going to say it. I won't say exactly how I feel, but read the article. Please don't ignore it or let it fade away.
It's really good. It's really good.
It's amazing.
But maybe that's the secret weapon?
I'm going to sum it up. I mean, what the United States says in this information. By the way, now the media are going crazy trying to ask and looking for more information about this. I already heard about several classic media outlets like cable news network Fox, several of those outlets. They're searching for data to get more information about this weapon. The United States would have acquired the weapon from someone, it's not known from whom, but it's not a country, it's a weapon, it's one. It generates a series of pulses, and those pulses basically disable the person. I mean, their brain ends up damaged. I mean, that's how it is. There are people who recover, people who don't, but it's this weapon that is suspected to be the same as the one used in the Havana Syndrome case, which is suspected to be the same. But the point is that somehow someone sold it to them, and supposedly it's not from any country. Getting in is just one part, the main news. The rest is interesting because it's information and data, which also makes it news if people realize it. What we're talking about means that someone has the capability. It could be a secret institution, an individual, a single person. I'm not sure, but is there anyone who could make a weapon like that and carry it in one backpack? They're saying each person has a backpack, right? So who has the ability to do that? Or they insist that it wasn't a country. I mean, it's not a country that sold it to them or anything like that, but rather that it wasn't developed by a country. If this is really how they're reporting it, then that means, and I've always assumed that there are people with a lot of abilities, or there are little groups of, let's say, entrepreneurs who have the ability to develop things we can't even imagine, right?
Simply yes.
I mean, there must definitely be, for sure, I mean, entrepreneurs. Because, for example, the topic of CRISP, I mean, the famous CRISP, right? Which is to change a gene, to modify your genetics. An adult, a fully developed person, let's say, can't have their genes modified, not through the famous CRISP. You don't need to, since the problem was always there. If you want to change your genes, well, you have to be born and then they modify you there, so you're already born with that gene, right? Not anymore, not with CRISP. With this development, it can be done, and the problem and also the advantage of CRISP is that anyone with some knowledge can do it. There's a really great documentary that was on Netflix, not this one, that talks about the topic, and it's really interesting. Because what's happening is that with information from the internet, with some files they can download, PDFs and whatever, right? With some medical knowledge, many veterinarians, nurses, they don't even have to be human doctors. Well, they're doing experiments with clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats with little animals, right? This one? They do it in their garages and basements. And so you say, sooner or later there will be someone who develops something with clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats. I mean, with those clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats topics, and achieves things we can't even imagine, right? I mean, in the end, we're entering a time where someone could develop really amazing things, good or bad, and that could cause you a problem or bring you some benefit, right? So, are the X-Men in the future or not? Imagine, you don't need to be a genius or have a big budget. That's the real issue, right? I mean, there are people who can develop amazing things, and now with all these ideas, well, it just multiplies the probability even more. Maybe programming in this area was my weak point, but this idea balances it out. Now I can also develop that other part that I couldn't do and didn't want to do. I didn't even have the budget to invite someone to help me program that part. No, so honestly, I was really surprised by the way this happened, right? This purchase of a weapon that, according to them, they're studying it. They don't say they used it in Venezuela. Everyone thinks it's the one from Venezuela, as people say.
Yes.
From the description the soldiers have given, that's basically it. It's that there was a sound that they heard, and that, I don't know, I mean, it supposedly incapacitated the Venezuelan soldiers.
They say it said that there is a committee in charge of developing this kind of weapon, and that it's funded by the CIA and supervised by the American government. Yes, Pepe mentions it. What is it?
Yes, which is this one.
And I don't remember what.
This is it. It's called NASing. I'll tell you in a moment, but it's just like I said. So little is said about that organization that you don't remember it, but this is the organization that would be in charge of that kind of thing. And that, well, in this case, tries to buy something that already exists. I mean, what I keep saying is what surprises me the most is not that they develop it. No, well, of course, all those powers develop and invest and everything, but what surprises me is that this development was already there. They had to buy it from someone else. Who the heck developed it? That's my big question. I mean, who? Who developed it? Who had the ability to make something like that? Well, it's a weapon that can, well, it can change the reality of a country. I mean, it's intense.
Says Marcela Riquelme. Could it be from some entrepreneur in China? And Francisco Arce says the weapon is Bad Bunny's music.
Hey, yeah, no, maybe, hey, it does. They say it has Russian components, but they insist it's not Russian. No, it's not Russian. It just has some Russian components. That's what they say. No, thank you very much, Gisela. No, thank you very much, Gisela. Greetings, she says. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Yes, big greetings, she says. And thank you so much. Yes, thank you very much, Gisela. Big greetings, Caribel. Anna, great. What else? What else do you put on?
Greetings to Fabi. She's here too, says Magus. Some of the Venezuelans said that sonic thing came out of their nose and that they threw up.
Yes. I mean, this
Was strong and...
That's good. The description given by the diplomats affected by Havana syndrome, which is basically a weapon supposedly, since some of them are left with that problem for life. I mean, there were people who took their own lives because they couldn't take it anymore. Imagine you have constant strong tinnitus all the time, so there comes a point where I imagine you're at a very intense level of desperation. People who could no longer walk because their nervous system was affected. I mean, what happened in Havana was really serious. And later it was said, I don't know if you remember that we talked about it here, that later the United States said no, that it hadn't been any country. Well, they had theories that maybe it was crickets or that it was psychological.
And...
They insisted it wasn't a country. It's crazy.
Says Claudio. Greetings, Claudio, he says. Massachusetts Institute of Technology is the most involved in creating things like that, says Claudio. Greetings, Claudio.
Massachusetts Institute of Technology is amazing. They have an incredible group of scientists. But what I think, Claudio, and you're right, I feel like right now we're about to experience a boom of lobos solitarios in terms of the creation of these unusual startups. I mean, before it was, well, yeah, they come out of Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Harvard, I don't know, from universities, from who knows where, from China, from this one, from technology. I think now we're going to start seeing things or developments from people you would never imagine, right? Who was living peacefully in some country while developing something. Aren't we going to see that more often? Thank you very, very much, Yandy Quintanilla, who bought a mug. Here we call it a mug.
Nice. Please snap a photo when it arrives.
Yes, please take a picture when it arrives. Thanks so much, Yandy. That's awesome. And thanks to everyone in the community who buys our mugs. We really appreciate it. They show up there, right? Greetings from Andy, and what else?
Greetings, Yandy Quintanilla. Also, for example, in Iraq it says the B-52s flew low over the desert and with their engines they kicked up the sand and covered the parked vehicles in Iraq. I think Alex said the best sound was the airplanes, but not Alex. That's just what they say. An airplane doesn't do that no matter how loud it is.
Because brain damage. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, that's where brain damage was detected. So this is a topic that goes beyond, well, yes, beyond that. I mean, yes.
Boss 49, happy birthday. Panterita and Pepe say congratulations. Ra 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 ra.
Greetings. Thank you very much.
Francisco Hernandez says, hello Pepe, congratulations. May God grant you many more years of life, health, and prosperity this year. May many good things come your way. Greetings from the state of Washington. Greetings, Francisco.
Thank you very much, Francisco. A big greeting all the way to the state of Washington. How are things going over there? Greetings to Leonardo. How are you, Leonardo? Pepe says the WAPs could provide disruptive technology to the citizens. Imagine, that also crossed my mind what you're saying, right? I mean, that the WAPs, not these UFOs, objects or whatever, and then suddenly that they're handing out little things, not toys. No, because what catches my attention about the comment they make about this supposed weapon, right? They say it had Russian components, but that they were studying it.
They haven't studied it for over a year?
Yes, they've been studying it for more than a year. Of course.
What they're saying now doesn't mention Gerard Garcia. It says the Venezuelan guard. She says that because she's embarrassed by their ineptitude. All right. Today they were making fun of, hey, what's his name, Canel? Miguel Diaz-Canel showed photos yesterday of Cuba's Delta version, she says. But in some places, they even bring them by donkey. I mean, you say what capacity? I mean, where does he get feeling so confident from? She says. Marilena Onofre, hello everyone. We gave a like. Let's stay safe with all these changes and protect ourselves from climate change and the strong flu. Greetings to the Tehuacan. Arturo and Dani send hugs and regards to Marilena, Dani, and Arturo. How are you all?
Greetings, how are you, Fabi? He asks if we tried to bring you here soon, that's it. Honestly, this was my birthday gift to myself because I was craving it already. Do you notice that I don't have those little coffees anymore? Now I control myself, And well, this one not so much. I mean, it's more because, well, in the end it's just milk, right? I mean, it's a latte, it's not a famous one. It's a latte, so yeah, it's a lot of milk. So no, so this one? Well, I said right now, today yes. I'll have it. I'll treat myself to my latte. And I went for a latte and I decided not to make a fuss. We went for a latte and well, the kids wanted a hot chocolate and everything, so. But before it was like, well, once or twice a week, right? Not anymore. Now I'm trying to cut back. Yeah, sometimes I order, but just regular coffee, not regular coffee, he says. And yeah, then we bring the cups to put them here. You're right, says Pepe. Thank you very much.
Yes, one day before my daughter.
Oh, that's crazy.
Happy birthday from Ciudad Juarez.
Greetings, and also to your daughter. Greetings to your daughter as well, and to you, obviously.
Says Juan Canejo. Hello? That weapon has been under development in the United States for about 26 years. Check out the information about it, among others. Is it the microwave one? That weapon isn't actually new?
No, it's not that one. We're talking about a different weapon. Yes, they have many psychotronic weapons.
Yes, a lot.
Yes, but this is a new weapon. Well, that's how it is. Well, that's the topic. Now, there have been many other psychotronic weapons for many years. They're quite well known. We've talked about them here. In fact, I made a video about it for those who haven't seen it. The video. I summarized several known psychotronic weapons that have been around for a while. That part isn't secret, right? I don't know. There's a lot of knowledge about it. There are even images. There are images of their use, or well, it's something that's known about. Regards, Juan Canejo.
Regards, Canejo, says Omar Hernandez. I heard the report about the sonic weapon and I started to wonder, what happens if one with more power is used? In a major city where it goes from a few affected to thousands, to me it seems like a new kind of terrorism, says Omar. Regards, Omar.
Of course, in the end, if it's used for evil, obviously, yes, it's pretty serious, right? And of course, it has that possibility, right? Now, the psychotronic weapon, let's say, the reason why these weapons are developed is so that people don't die. I mean, they said, well, we need to make weapons that can disable a group of people.
Like they used in Serbia?
Like the one they used in Serbia, exactly. And then, well, so that people don't die, right? I mean, that was basically it, right? The idea is supposedly more humane, right? No, obviously not. But let's say that's kind of the origin of psychotronic weapons, which have been in development for many years, decades, right? Or are we talking about something that's been around for a while? The type of pulse this weapon generates, well, it's a pulse that they first experienced themselves through someone else, right? They note the difference is that it's a development they didn't have before. Psychotronic weapons right now can generate heat. They can generate thoughts. I mean, they can put intrusive thoughts in your mind, for example, which, I mean, already exist. Intrusive thoughts. There are a lot of people who suddenly get bothered by it, right? Because sometimes they can't explain it, and that needs to be explained, by the way, not to children, right? Or intrusive thoughts exist, and well, just don't pay attention to them, right? I mean, the classic thought of doing something mischievous, right? Like doing something that, I mean, well, an intrusive thought. So little by little, you learn not to pay attention to that thought. That's why a lot of kids suddenly have trouble with being super mischievous, because they think of something, they do it, they think of something, they do it. Didn't you have a high school friend like that? He'd get an idea and just do it? The one I mean had an advantage, right? They act brave but end up doing the opposite, and then people start to, what's it called? To do too much, to overthink doing, to dare to do something. No, yes, he says. Thank you very much, Juan Conejo. Greetings, he says. It's a good weapon. Yes. Greetings, Christy. How have you been? I don't know. How can we protect ourselves from a psychotronic weapon?
Listen, for example, I remember seeing a documentary about this a long time ago. And on Discovery, they said that, for example, a lion or a tiger, when it roars at you, often the sounds we can't hear, those that are very low, are the ones that make your heart race and freeze you. It's not just what you hear, but what you feel. You can cover your ears, but you can't stop what you feel.
Yeah.
Greetings to Carlos.
Yeah, also the sound. I mean, one thing is what we hear, but also what we feel.
Carlos Julio Perez says, wow, about the wave, how it hits you and what you do with it. Happy birthday. Thank you for keeping us informed, guys. Hugs from Montevideo. Greetings, Carlos.
Greetings, Carlos. Thank you very much. Also, greetings to Rosmarco. Greetings, he says. Congratulations, babies. Greetings, blessings, and much success today and always. Capricorn, the best without a doubt.
It's Capricorn.
That's right, that's right.
Greetings to El Pitbull, who says active denial system. The 95 Hz microwave system produces intense sensations of heat on the skin. The United States Department of Defense conducted research at the Air Force Resil. Also, he says greetings.
Okay, greetings.
Greetings to Japan, who says meow. Greetings, meow. Greetings to Raul Sanchez, who should look. What happened in Colombia many years ago during the time of the noise, was it true? There's a lot of information on the internet, the time of the noise.
Okay. I'm gonna check it. This is the video I'm telling you about. I put the link there in case you want to check it out. It might be interesting to summarize this topic. Much has already been written and discussed on camera. A lot has been written about the topic of psychotronic weapons, both about the ones that have worked because there have been others that are still in development and they've had to replace or suspend them because they don't produce the effect they want, but there's been a lot of research, a lot of investigation. For example, not only regarding psychotronic weapons, not just for attacking, but also for influencing. For example, psychotronic weapons that are made, for instance, to send a message. Not for those intrusive thoughts that they mention from this country, and I obviously don't know how they work, but they're very interesting. I was telling you today that on these Reddit forums, there are many forums about, for example, lucid dreams, and then...
Well, there are forums about everything.
There are forums about everything, but some of them are very interesting. Because, well, they're looking to, control your dreams a little more. Obviously, and as Kaliman rightly says, he who controls the mind controls everything. Yes, exactly. It's like I think we're in that process of, developing yourself, developing your mind. They were talking about how lately in several, I don't know, I imagine it's a joke that they've been having intrusive dreams about. But about advertising, the ads that appear to them, I guess it's because they're spending so much time on social media or whatever. I'm not sure if it was a joke, but people reported it anyway.
Don't dream about making ads?
Yeah, they suddenly appeared in their dreams. If everyone saw the same ad, that would be weird. Random ads are fine, but not the infrasounds, he says. How are you, Panderita? Hello, Partida Plus. How have you been? Very good. Jose Francisco Raul Sáenz, greetings. What's up? Claudio says, without their metal box, microwaves can act like radiation weapons. What if the goal is to focus the waves and reduce the power? Claudio asks, how have you been? But is it feasible? He says, greetings from Venezuela. I got Havana syndrome, buzzing and sleep problems, chest pains because of the capture of Maduro. And before and after is, are you in Venezuela near there, Francisco? Because it's clear that I thought about that too. And what about the people who live around where the operations took place?
I could also feel anxiety too because, yes, it's not something we're used to as Latin Americans. Well, America in general doesn't say if.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know the best zodiac sign, but Capricorns are cool and always right.
And what if another Capri shows up here? I'm realizing that I'm surrounded. Sounds, infrasounds, yeah, infrasounds, thank you.
He says, hear the neighbors make your ears bleed all night, but with music, he says, I really get embarrassed. When you have a really noisy neighbor, it's just not right.
He says there, Bara, what for? They're so advanced with weapons. And when is the cure for cancer coming? Greetings.
I know, they were already leaving, right? By the way, it's a topic being worked on and developed. I wish it moved faster, since many people want a solution to that issue.
He says if I thought that merchandise shown live belonged to third parties, am I going to go buy something? So he says that if we design it, but the one who sells it is a company that has a contract with YouTube and we get a cut.
No, if we get a percentage, that's how they handle everything here.
It's cool because it is. I mean, they're super reliable companies.
Yes, you can open your own store. There is a way to do it. The thing is, we don't have the time to do it. So we haven't wanted to open our own store yet. We create the design and can add more elements. They give us options for clothes, shirts, and all that. So we use them, we design them, and that's it.
What I'll do, yes.
Yes, we have several plans involving recent events and phrases in the community that we want to discuss. So once it's ready, we publish it here, right? But we also want to make shirts and other things, right? Greetings, does he say? Or what does he say? I have even suspended the sentence. That's what I say. What is this guy saying? I recently had a dream message too. That's crazy. Seriously, old age, he says.
Even here in El Lopez, greetings from Guatemala are wonderful news. God bless, thank you.
Greetings, hello Olga, he says. We're going to play the song so we can sing and celebrate with excitement. Thank you, greetings, says Luis. There must be a way to protect yourself. Otherwise, American soldiers would be affected too. I'm assuming they're dropping it, like the blast.
And if you send the blast there...
They're in a helicopter, that's why I say, they're in a helicopter and the blast goes downwards, so it shouldn't affect them. Or what Alex says, if they have protection, it's possible some is already built in. I don't know if the blast is affecting them through their ears or because everyone complains about the sound, or if the wave goes directly into your head. That's how it is. Not this one, but it could be, he says. A sonic bomb, an ambulance in the tunnel, and a sodium blockage. That ambulance sound.
Pitbull, German Van Hol, and Helmholtz studied how sound affects the human body. James Clerk Maxwell explained the invisible waves that today support all modern technology. And Nikola Tesla dreamed of energy and communication to unite humanity, not to harm. Greetings to Issa Jones too.
Greetings from Pitbull. Thank you, Marco Antonio. Greetings to Honduras, Issa Jones, and everyone. Let's go.
Well, guys, remember that we're on WhatsApp and Telegram and we send you notifications about the live streams. But we're also on X, we're also on Facebook, and also on Insta. Thank you.
Greetings to everyone and thanks to the whole community, especially Fabis, and for nearly 800 likes. Seriously, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, here we are early in the morning, right? Yes.
Always here with info.
Let's see. Like I said, if anything happens, we'll be there at night watching. If there's something to report, we'll do it at the right time. Big hug. Take care. See you.
See you later. Regular programming interrupted. Thanks for tuning in to The Truth.
This is PP Live.
The truth is intense.
The unusual is real.
We analyze it here. Global focus. Don't miss out. Tune in to the PP and Vivo channel with Pepe and Astrid telling it like it is. Raw journalism. Perspectives given here. Turn on the alert. Don't lose track until next time. Yes, sir. We're taking attendance. Subscribe. PP